Welcome to MyPersonalFootballCoach.com's Soccer Player Development Podcast. Discover all the secrets, hints and tips about soccer player development and soccer coaching from some of the leading figures in world soccer. Here's your host, Saul Isaacson-Hurst.
Hi guys, welcome back to another show. This week we've got a fantastic guest for you. It's Ian Buckman, who's head of coaching at Brighton, Hove and Albion. Brighton is a top club, one of the best run clubs and academies in the country for me. Always really well organised, always really impressive. Always liked going there as a coach when I was at Tottenham and Chelsea. Really, like I say, well organised. Staff top quality, great application of players, and obviously now they've got Dan Ashworth there, who's for me one of the best in the game in terms of technical directors. So really excited to find out what goes on behind the scenes there, what makes it click and what makes it such a top draw place, top draw academy. And obviously really interesting to hear Ian's journey as well, who's started off working in the community schemes and went to America like myself, and first job at Portsmouth in the academy, working himself way up to assistant academy director, and then moving to Brighton, had numerous roles at Brighton to his current role as head of coaching. So this is a really interesting, engaging hour or so of talking football, and I was trying to get as much details, as much of the juicy stuff as I could to find out what goes behind the scenes and make this great quality academy and club tick. So I know you're going to enjoy this one. I was really privileged and fortunate to be asked to deliver an in-service for their coaches at Brighton during the lockdown, talking about my work, my dynamic ball mastery program, and the work I do at some of the top clubs, and obviously a lot of the pros and stuff I work with. So there I had a chance to connect with them, and I was really eager to try and get Ian on the show, and I was really fortunate that he found the time in his very busy schedule to come on and chat with us. Just to let you know, the My Personal Football Coach app is now free for individual users. You can go and download it from the App Store, from the iOS or Android. Just search My Personal Football Coach, all one word. It's free now, the Player Pass. Go there, try it, see why it's the top technical training ball mastery app in the world, and go and share it with as many people as you like as well. And obviously, look, if you're interested in the club partnership, like I said, Arsenal, Middlesbrough, Wolverhampton Wanderers, we've got Leyton Orient, Cheltenham Town, and hundreds of grassroots clubs around the world who are now taking their club, their coaches and their players to a next level. Just drop me a line, we can set you up a DM, and remember, there's nothing else like it out there. Nothing with my history in terms of working individual players at top clubs and grassroots level, and obviously utilised by some of the best academies in the world as well. So remember, set up a free demo, you can try it and show it to everyone at your club and let us know your thoughts. But without further ado, let's get into the show. So Ian Buckman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Saul. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too, mate. Can you just give us a brief outline of your playing and coaching journey up to this point, please?
Yeah, sure. My journey really and playing career would have been, non-league, sort of local leagues initially. Grew up on the Isle of Wight with my family over there, so sort of youth leagues through there. Started playing non-league, sort of Newport, and then across into some of the South Coast teams, Fair and Winchester, and a non-league career, sort of up to sort of Southern League and equivalent to Conference South level back in the day, I guess, and then. From there, then moved into coaching. I was fortunate in my non-league days to work with some really good people and play with some people that have been involved in the game at professional levels, and that was always really helpful to me. So when I stepped into coaching, I had some good contacts and some good people to link into. Started as many of us do in terms of community programs and various sort of activities, on the island, and then ventured out, had a spell abroad in the US for 2 years. Which was a brilliant learning curve for me as a coach and as a person. And then coming back was a little bit of a crossroads, really, in terms of, whether you can pursue the coaching route as a career. And I was moving towards my late 20s, did my B licence, and then was fortunate enough off the back of that to get a role at Portsmouth, where I stayed for, I think, about 7 years. My first year being the full-time, the year they won the FA Cup, my last day being the day the fans took over, so the full wow. Experience there, and then then made the move to Brighton. My first year we were based at the Amex, the training ground was just being prepared, and then we moved in here my second season. And then a variety of roles at Pompey and at Brighton, from development centres through foundation, youth development, professional development phase into my assistant academy manager roles, and then my current role as head of coaching.
Fantastic, lovely. Just interesting, you mentioned you're working in America. So
Yeah.
what were you doing out there, doing like the camps and stuff out there, were you?
Yeah, an old college lecturer of mine was out there and sort of invited us over. So I went out initially for a summer, did summer camps. The guy that ran the camps was an English guy, Tom Rowney, and he also ran an academy at a club. So I was fortunate. I did camps and then did some academy work for Tom. And then from there, I kind of got to know the area a little bit, got to know some people. My wife was with me, and we ended up moving back to another club. Then for an 18-month period, and had 18 months over in Oregon. Great part of the world anyway, the Pacific Northwest, some wonderful people, bit of a hotbed for soccer really, with the Portland Timbers and the Sounders and the Whitecaps, so it's quite a competitive area.
What do you think what were the main takeaways you had of your experience in America there, do you think?
It was just a great learning curve for me as a coach, I think. Like I say, we had a full range of experiences across those journeys with those clubs, from people that have not seen a ball before and are literally just starting at the age of 5, and whose parents have been involved in other sports, other US sports. And so really starting from scratch up to competitive programs. So for me, in terms of, as I say, the people and those people skills first and foremost, it was a great learning curve as a coach to develop players from, like I say, minute one virtually, and their first experience with the football all the way through to competitive programs. It just can't do anything but enhance your skill set, I don't think. And, lots of challenges along the way, lots of fun along the way, but a wonderful learning curve for me.
Yeah, I did the same. I did 2 years at the beginning of my career, and I always talk about the main things were obviously the hours on the grass, doing 2 or 3 hours every single day for like 2 years. And also my personality, like you talked about trying to entertain 5 and 6 year olds for a week for 3 hours a day. Suddenly you've got to create some sort of some personality.
Yeah.
Do you think that helped, those sorts of things held you in good stead for your coaching career in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, a lot of it is just dealing with people, isn't it? And especially in our environments, in the academies, it's working with children and it's working with young players, and I think all of those things are key. As you say, it's having fun and creating the environment around them as much as the detail of the coaching, if you like. So yeah, we developed a range of skills to try and entertain, as you say, in the lunch breaks and through the days and the weeks. And they're so fortunate I could balance that off with some good level coaching and learn my craft a little bit more with the academy team. So it was a nice balance for me, and as I said, certainly something I really treasure as an experience as a coach and sort of for my wife and I personally.
Just tell me then about the opportunity at Portsmouth. How did that come about?
As I say, when I went on my B licence, and Dave Wright, Steve Martin, a couple of the guys that had been involved in there were on the course. Pompey at the time was starting to kick on a little bit. Paul Hart, Mark Kelly, sort of leading the academy there, and it was quite a big setup at that point. So that would have been around 2007. Looking to bring in more staff, and they offered me a role there, sort of part-time initially, as I say, sort of working with the foundation groups and development centres and those types of areas. I did a year and then came in full-time in a similar type role, and then sort of progressed and developed from there. And over that period, obviously, Pompey went through a lot of financial troubles, and it was a challenge at times, but also, again, really good experience for me because we had to really adapt to a lot and really cope with a lot. Some wonderful people down there, John Slater, who ran the education programme, who's the academy manager now, and some wonderful people that really did well to keep the academy alive. And a lot of good players have come out of that programme, which I think everyone can be proud of. So it was very much a time that's close to my heart, and very much a period where, as I say, it was a challenge, but you had to adapt, and we managed to continue a really productive programme, continue to evolve, over the years. Andy Orford, Paul Hardiman, Alan McLaughlin sort of coming in sort of in the later stages over there, Guy Whittingham, Mark Chamberlain. So a lot of players that have played for the club and been around the club. Again, brilliant role models for me to learn off of and work with. So really, really valuable for me in my career.
Tell us about your initial experiences then working in those development centres with those young players. What are the main, the differences, the contrast between working in America and then working in that academy environment?
I think the players here obviously come in with, football's all over the place here, in the schools, people live and breathe it. Certainly around the Pompey area, the club is sort of front and centre of many things in that area. So the kids come in the door, they want to play for Pompey. They understand the game and they see the game on the TV and they want to play. In contrast to the States, as I said earlier, where many of the kids are arriving for the first time, they haven't got that sort of referential knowledge of seeing the game on the television or what it looks like. I'm going back sort of 20 years now, Saul, so I'm sure that's changed now with the TV coverage. But from my experiences at that period, that would have been the case. So you have a good base level to start from. We worked really hard then on the technical elements certainly, and trying to develop those areas. Obviously, building towards the transition towards 11v11, but primarily around those ages, it was all getting used to the ball and developing those techniques.
So can you give us tell us about then in the foundation phase there? What was the philosophy or the methodology? Give us an idea of what sort of experiences were players getting? Typical session, for example.
Yeah, I think back then we used to do a lot of work with the ball. We would do a lot of ball manipulation, a lot of work with the ball in terms of Kerber type activities and ball manipulation work. As I say, getting comfortable in possession, a lot of movement, and linking that with the techniques, progressing that into sort of individual skills and tactics, and then into sort of more gameplay. But again, very much around the individual, creating space and movement and timing, and then starting to link all of those things together in that transition towards becoming part of a team.
And so then give us some ideas about then, being at Portsmouth. What are the challenges, in that environment? I always remember going down there with Tottenham, over the years, and always, Portsmouth always a very good, tough team to play. Was generally tough conditions, windy, coastal pitches. Yeah. But give us an idea, what's the challenges being at Portsmouth, being, at the time that was, a big academy, but, you have Southampton on your doorstep. I suppose you've got, obviously you've got the coastline there. What are the main challenges there? Yeah,
very, very compelling. We haven't got as much in terms of area and residential areas to look into, but at the same time, certainly around those areas, that can be a strength. I think if you get your local area right and people are proud of your football club and want to be part of your football club, and certainly that was the case at Paul, are proud to be a part of, I think.
Interesting. Okay, so tell us a little bit about then your progression to Brighton. How did that come about?
They were just a normal application process, and I applied for the role. I think my last season or so at Pompey was still very much an uncertain sort of time at the club. It was just ahead of the fans' takeover. So, I have a wife and a son, and you need to look after your family as well. And it was the first time really I'd looked to move on anywhere after 7 years. And I applied for the roles. Again, Brighton was a similar situation really, just starting to progress and develop, and a lot of new staff had just come in. The club was very ambitious with the Amex, probably 1 or 2 years old, and the training ground being built. So I applied and came down and got the role with the youth development phase, and came in there and started work.
So tell us about then, what were your initial thoughts? What are the differences between, walking through the door at Brighton and what you'd experienced at Portsmouth, the initial sorts of experiences?
It's hard to say really, because I'm very, very fond of both clubs. I love both clubs, and I think every club's a little different. I think certainly when I arrived at Brighton, my interview was at the Amex. Like I say, it was very, very new stadium, and so that was very, very impressive. And also it was more the project really. I met with John Morlin and David Burke, and the project was really, really exciting. The club here are very keen to sort of stress the values of the club and the club generally speaking. So it's a big project, and it's not just the academy. It's not just one aspect of it. It was you really felt like you come to be part of something really exciting and really special. And that kind of was how it started to play out. I was fortunate to be offered the role. That sort of coincided with Pompey being safe and the fans taking over, and so that was a difficult time to leave, but also a nice time to leave in terms of knowing that the club was in good hands and the club there was moving forward as well. So it was a nice time in terms of seeing Pompey able to sort of stabilise and rebuild, and also come down here and be part of an exciting project at Brighton.
What was a lot of the differences in terms of when so I've worked at a couple of different clubs, and there was a really contrast in terms of the methodology, in terms of what was delivered. Was there any differences in that? Not necessarily value judgment, just saying was there a difference, a contrast in what they wanted you to deliver?
I think everywhere it's slightly different. We're very, very much principles based here. The staff have always been given a lot of autonomy in terms of how they coach and how they work, a lot of flexibility. So, at the time, John Morlin, Paul Holder, who were supporting us in that process were really good to me and helped me settle quickly. We have a lot of good staff here, as I said, who all arrived around a similar period, a good core of staff. And so I think it's kind of evolved, from that period, a real emphasis on sort of brilliant basics and making sure the fundamentals of the game are right. We've always worked in the four corners, as many would, around attacking, defending and the transitions. And then we build from there. So then establishing our principles and how we work, that allows us to then, like I say, with that autonomy, then to add our own bits and pieces to that in terms of our own sort of unique stamp that you put on as a coach.
So talk a bit about that. To be able
to do.
So you talk a bit about the brilliant basics there. Yeah. Tell us about that, and how does that translate into your sessions there, for example?
Now it's evolved more and more, really. We kind of have it as a main concept of how we work. The brilliant basics for us, really, the fundamentals of what we do with the players and the fundamentals for the players. So a lot around technique, a lot around the detail of technique in terms of passing detail, in terms of ball speed, as I touched on earlier, ball manipulation, time, being comfortable in possession and mechanics and movement. We link in very closely now with our strength and conditioning team on that, so it continues to evolve even further. And then other sort of aspects of the game, real focus on attacking 1v1s and defending 1v1s in the foundation phase. Linked in with that team concept around passing, and as I touched upon earlier, then trying to develop the individual sort of tactics and awareness of space and time.
So when you did you joined the YDP, what age group were you doing? Or
I came initially at 14s, so I had the 14s first, and then at that point we worked day release across 14 to 16, so I worked with all of those age groups. Then I had the 16s role for a period, and then up to the 18s. So that was my coaching journey.
So give us a little bit of an idea then of the 14s. What would the typical week be for under 14s at Brighton?
I think back in the day we had day release. Like I say, my first year we were at the Amex, so the players would have come in. We had day release. Now we have 1 day a week with our 13s and 14s where they come in. So they would have education in the morning. We would train a couple of times over the course of the day, get a couple of sessions in. Another education session in the afternoon. Being out of school for that day allows them to sort of take on other workshops and other educational opportunities around the building, which is great and gives us just that little bit more time. And then we'd have a couple of evenings a week in a game. So again, it gave us that little bit more time. We're now in a position here where we do all our education in-house at the training ground. So again, that's evolved and is a real big strength for us to be able to do that. And at under 15 and under 16, the players come in twice a week into our programme as part of day release, and then work 2 evenings. So it's very much a key part of our week. And the educational model here is really, really important to us. All the way from the owner all the way down, there's a big emphasis on educating the players, developing the players holistically, and developing them as good people as well as good footballers.
So you say it's in-house. So just tell us a little bit about that. So they come in and they'll do education.
Yeah.
So they full time there then.
2 days a week at the moment. We'd be on the hybrid model. Right. So they would come in for day release here. So our education department would liaise with the schools, and then from there, the players come in, like I say, either once or twice a week, depending on their age. Their work's all delivered here by our bank of teachers, and again, we're very, very fortunate to have a big education department and really well supported and resourced. And that gives us the option to then deliver those 2 sessions, and I said additional sort of strength and conditioning work or psychology program or other informal education that we would have around the building.
And give us an idea what a typical session would look like in a YDP, for example, if you put one on.
It would vary day to day. Again, sort of, we would always make sure there's a brilliant basics component. We'd have individual development plans for the players, so they would feature throughout the week. Our playing philosophy continues to evolve, and so there'd also be sessions where we link more in towards our philosophy. So those would be our three main areas, really, sort of the brilliant basics and sort of more technical aspects and fundamentals. The individual work, where we would tend to go either sort of position specific or around a key topic and try and heavily staff that, with lower numbers. Or then, like I said, philosophy sessions where we would be working in or out of possession or transitions and working more towards a more tactical element, if you like. So we would normally sort of progress and develop that through the week. And that would be the kind of model that we would sort of implement from 9 through to 16, obviously with different variations of content and different variations in terms of how much we would deliver of each aspect.
And tell us about your own development on that journey as a coach, going from 14s to 16s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell us about your own evolution and how you developed and yourself.
Yeah, huge. It would be massive for me. I think, as I say, I've been really fortunate, even from going back to those non-league days, where it was some brilliant people, and I always sort of find new things and listen to people and pick up new ideas and watch sessions. So similar in that environment, coming into here, certainly then coming to the training ground where we're all under the same roof, gives me access to see our 16s and our 18s and our 23s work. The first team staff have always been very, very supportive here. So that period, that would have been Chris Houghton, and now with the gaffer in charge, the first team were always very, very open and supportive of our learning and development. So that's a big strength for us here, I think. So, with all of those opportunities, I think you can't help but improve. And I just think it's a constant learning journey. I look back and you realise mistakes you made and things you could have improved on and things you could have done better. And I think that's still the case now. You're always trying to be more forward thinking and have that growth mindset around your own development and your own self-awareness. And certainly, you look back and think you could have done things slightly different, but at the time, as I say, you're always trying to give the players their best, and out of that programme, of which, like I say, a lot of people have been involved for a long time now. We're fortunate that one or two are starting to break through into the first team.
You talked about your growth mindset and developing yourself, and the in-house support you get. What are there any other things you do, maybe externally, to support yourself and try and develop yourself? Yeah.
I was very, very fortunate. As when I sort of stepped in, I'd been here a couple of years and I got the opportunity to go on ECAS with the Premier League, the Elite Coach Apprenticeship Scheme, and I was the first coach to go from here. So I was a little in the dark really around what I was going into, if I'm honest. But it's very much around that, your personal development, and it's a wonderful programme that we were part of. Very well supportive. We had mentors delegated to us as well, who were first class and helped me tremendously. And throughout that journey, we had some wonderful experiences. We had some wonderful residential opportunities, guest speakers, and so as a development process for me, it was invaluable. And as I say, certainly at that stage where I think my own self-awareness and it was heightened in terms of what I've seen around me in this environment and how I was developing and what I'd seen previously in my career. It really helped me to develop and grow further as a person, I think. And that kind of growth mindset, as you said, and being more receptive to feedback and delving a bit deeper into the whats and the whys of how you work and what you do. Whether that's yourself or getting feedback from your peers is a process that's quite difficult to work through initially, I think, to take and accept some of that, but very, very valuable. And as soon as we were sort of educated in how to work in that way, it became an integral part of my learning. And now you look back and you reflect and build upon that, trying to move forward again. And in my current role, I'm now fortunate to be part of EHOC, which is a very similar process for the heads of coaching, and again is a programme I'm very fortunate to be part of. So as learning experiences for me, I didn't really have to chase those. I was fortunate to be part of them, but it opened up a tremendous network of people for me, looking at business and management, communication, feedback, different sports. A real eye-opener, and from that I've made some wonderful friends and some wonderful contacts and who I keep in touch with, and it's really been very, very enlightening for me.
Okay, so excellent. So tell us now about your transition into the PDP, the professional development phase. Tell us about that. How did that come about, and those experiences and that working with those players that age?
Again, it was a natural process inside, recruitment process internally at the football club, and I was fortunate to get the role. In terms of the under-18 group at that time, we had some exciting players and some exciting talents. We had some really good recruitment in those years that I was involved with that group, and players sort of coming in from abroad as well. So that, all of those things, again, I think if you look at our philosophy here around developing the person and the player, front and centre is you have people away from home, even the local players that come into, host families for the first time, get homesick, even if the families are only an hour and a half away. So, you can imagine the difficulties and the challenges for the international players. And so looking after the players, just holistically is a challenge, and then developing in this environment where it does get competitive, and they want to be in the team every week, and they then want to be progressing to the 23s and moving forward. Again, really interesting for me, really interesting part of my journey, and you look back at many of those aspects in terms of how we did it, how we tried to create the environment, and I think as the club here we continue to kind of build on that year on year. And the kind of coaching model we have now, and the way we work now is built upon that, and again looks very different again. But I think that's part of the philosophy here, just to try and be progressive and keep moving forward.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, mate. So just tell us a bit about that environment. How do you create that environment that you're creating players? Well, that environment, for that transition to the first team. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you do that? What's the difference between the 16s and the 18s, for example?
I think as they come through, it's just step by step. As I say, we have a strong philosophy here. We're very well supported across the football club. Very much a values-based club in terms of staff and in terms of the environment we try and create. We're very big on our academy values of hard work, discipline and respect. So again, off the back of all of that work we've done previously, we've kind of established that kind of culture where I think everyone understands what we want from the people involved. I think we're developing our culture as a group of staff and a multidisciplinary team, and working in a more interdisciplinary way, trying to bring everyone together to try and support the players. And I think that's something that's been really key over the years, is we've kind of had groups of staff that work really well at certain age groups, and more now it's kind of all working together on the same page to try and reach our target of getting players into the first team. And that's something that comes all the way through the football club, in terms of our owner and the board, Dan as our technical director now, and John as our academy manager. We're very much aligned to that, and I think that's a strength now that we can take forward into the years ahead. But that sort of collaborative approach for us has been vital in creating the environment that we discussed.
Do you keep in mind, for example, are you looking at how the first team's playing, and you're trying to reflect that to give those boys a taste of that, or is the philosophy from the 18s downwards the same? Or how does that impact what you're doing on the pitch?
Yeah, as I said, I think we're very much principles based. So we've kind of worked over the last 18 months to really establish why we do what we do. We had a good look at the environment we try and create around the different ages and stages. After that, we had a good look at our playing philosophy across the ages in terms of what we think it looks like, and then in reality how we play and how we train, the type of language we use, how we play through the thirds, how we defend through the thirds. And that's kind of given us that alignment. As I said, a big part of my time here is we've always been allowed sort of autonomy to coach and work, and John would always encourage us to coach what's in front of us in terms of the game, and that being part of the education for the players as well. So it's that balance really of collaboration and having that continuity through our age groups, but also allowing people to work and develop themselves and develop the players as they see fit. So it's kind of giving people that bit of freedom to work within the structure, if you like.
Do you have like a preferred formation you'd like the teams to play in the older age groups?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. We've been talking a lot about it lately, actually, in terms of how we start to pin down more and more detail. And again, we need to be flexible. I think as you'll have seen, we're quite flexible at first team level, and some of the players that have gone in to the first team from the academy have played in different roles. So I think we're conscious we need to develop players that are players that can cope and be adaptable, as I say, technically and tactically, and that's something really that remains our priority. So we're not too prescriptive, but we do have principles that we work to, and we try and maintain that across the academy, and we've linked that into how we play and how we analyse games and the type of best practice resources that we would develop. So in that respect, we try and, as I say, it's a little bit of a challenge at times, because if you do give that flexibility at times, we'll deviate slightly from where we think we need to be. But again, then you come back to that collaborative approach and those discussions and make sure we realign to what we are and find another way to go forward.
So, for instance, you're like setting up your team on a game day on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how are you setting up? You're setting up a team, think your formation, thinking, right, what players have I got? What formation have I got to suit those players? Or what formation, was going to suit the way we want to play, basically? Or is it a bit of both? I mean, how do you juggle those things?
A little bit of both. I think the way we work through the thirds is we, there may be days where we press, there may be days where we play a little bit deeper. There may be days where we play out, there may be days where we play a little more direct into the front players or we stretch in behind. But for all of those things, there'll be a way we would like to see it. So we're not prescriptive on, you have to play out, you have to press, you have to do these certain things specifically. But when you see those things in the games, and across our teams, then we want them to reflect a Brighton team, and it looked like a Brighton team doing it. So more and more we're developing the philosophy, more and more we're starting to now dig deeper into that detail. So that's not to say that won't again change and evolve. And I think the more discussions we have, the more layers we put onto it. So very much that would be a work in progress, I think, and something that will continue to develop.
And how do you measure success, for example, in the PDP? I think team contracts or.
Yeah, I think certainly, number one priority would to be get people in the first team. If not, then we've had a number of players go on to careers at other clubs, which is great, and stay in the game. Outside of that, again, going back to that educational model and that holistic approach here, we want people to be, well-rounded, well-educated if we can, and support them with that. We've had players go to the US on scholarships or into other jobs, so we're very proud of that. Some of our players that have left us slightly younger have gone into university. We're very supportive of all of those things. I think that's really part of our duty of care to the players, is to make sure we provide them the best we can. At 16, we would always have a variety of options for them, whether they're coming in as scholars or they're released from the football club, and we would try and support them to the very, very best of our ability. So we're very, very conscious of that. But yeah, our priority is to get players into the team, and then we would sort of work down through those different areas.
And tell us about like the FA Youth Cup. It's quite a unique sort of experience, or quite a unique tournament. How important is that? Is it important? Do people put too much stock in it? I mean, tell me about the FA Youth Cup.
I think it's important to people, and it's a great competition. I think it's something we've all been part of. I know the games that we're involved in when we work with the 18s, it was something the players look forward to and the staff look forward to. Again, it's something you want to compete in and you want to go as far as you can. That would be our approach here. At the same time, outside of that, there's a bigger picture, which is always about the players and their individual development. But no, certainly it's something we want to do well in. Certainly it's something that the club always back us with. In my time with the under-18s, we had some nice evenings at the Amex. I think both years I had the 18s, we lost on penalties actually in the Youth Cup, so we have mixed memories of it. So. But they're great nights, and we've had some great games over the years. We've had a lot of big games against good clubs, and they're great nights for the players. Go and play at the stadiums under the floodlights, and certainly when they have the opportunity, with their families, they're great memories. And again, that's something they'll treasure forever, whether they stay in the game or not. So it's again another nice part of their journey, I think.
What's your thoughts on like competition generally? I mean, particularly in the younger age groups of academy football, do you think maybe there's not enough competition? Or I mean, recently in last year there's been a lot more, cups added, Floodlight Cup and different sorts of different, foundation phase. Do you think there's maybe a lack of competition, or do you think it's enough? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think more and more now there's a nice variety. I think the Premier League and the Football League have done a really good job, as you say, in terms of putting on different events. If you look across the academy programme now, you'd have the regular games programme. There would be, in regular seasons, a host of tournaments available. We would be fortunate to take teams abroad. The Premier League would run tournaments here, with all the qualifiers and different events. With the younger age groups now, they're very creative in terms of the type of events they put on around buyer banning and different aspects there. So I think the variety is key for the players. As much as we say it's not competitive, most of the players know the score at the weekends anyway, and that's still something that they're aware of. Certainly, it wouldn't be a big focus for us here. Their development would be our priority, but I think that's mainly because we do have a nice variety now, and we do have activities and events we can go to and compete. And I think it's important they learn that, winning mentality is part of our academy philosophy. So it's not something we would hide away from, but it's something that I think needs to be progressive and needs to be kept in context, through their younger years and developing them as young players. And then as it gets more competitive, obviously, the level of competition cranks up a little bit. And as you say, with the Youth Cup and events like that, then progressing to under 23s and Premier League 2, the players and the staff and the club would want us to do well.
Interesting. Okay, let's just move on to your role, your next role at the club, assistant academy manager. Tell us about that. That transition.
Yeah, that was an interesting transition for me. I'd finished in a similar role at Pompey, and so it was I've always sort of quite enjoyed the bigger picture kind of view on stuff. And it was an interesting period here. As I said, we'd sort of had a big influx of players, and the groups have continued to evolve. And I think at the time, the amount of staff in the building, I think, when I'd started the year before, I think there was only 4 or 5 staff, and we're at the equivalent of maybe 40 staff in the academy at that point. So everything had just grown and grown and grown. So again, alongside John and Paul at that period, it was just a role that was put in place to help manage all of that, really. And it was an exciting period for me, working alongside those guys, developing different areas of it. As I said, that's where we had a real good look at our values and our environment. We'd been in the training ground for a few years then, and now we had a good idea of how we thought we could maximise the use of the facility and the resources at hand. We very much wanted to make sure our culture was created now. The values were sort of realigned, and that became our sort of code of conduct we use with our players and our families. So again, sort of holistically and around the players' progress, that was key for us. And then we started to look then more and more at the programme and develop the programme. So again, working alongside Noddy and all the great work that had gone on there to sort of develop the programme. Initially, we started looking at different aspects of that and ways we could continue to improve and grow. The club is ambitious and continues to move forward, and that's certainly something that we felt we needed to reflect in the academy.
So Noddy, Paul Holder, as people know him, legend in his own lifetime, bit of a character. So he was head of coaching, was he? And you were the assistant academy manager? Yeah,
Paul was head of coaching, I was the academy manager. So again, another great person to learn from, and as you know, some brilliant ideas on the game, and Paul would have been really supportive of me when I was coaching as well. So
tell us a bit about them.
Thank him for.
So then, just tell us, what was your roles then? I'm interested to understand the difference, because obviously we'll talk about your head of coaching in a minute. So what were your sort of your day-to-day, roles and responsibilities as assistant academy manager?
Mine would be more, I guess, in terms of the department generally. So as you know, like I say, when you're talking about 40 staff and lots of different departments now, there's a lot in terms of administration. There's a lot in terms of logistical work around the teams and PMA and recording all of the data. And as I said, more and more we looked at trying to collaborate more as a multidisciplinary team. So a big part of my role would be joining up with some of the dots, I guess, at that period in between all the different departments. Psychology was continuing to grow, analysis departments getting bigger, strength and conditioning team, sports science, coaching department. It was again exciting time for me because I was on my ECAS journey. So being part of all those elite environments on ECAS and seeing Olympic sports and going to different clubs and bringing back ideas, it was kind of looking at different ways we could grow and develop. So for me, I guess it was more on a wider scale across the academy in terms of trying to develop in that manner.
What were the main challenges associated with that new role?
Again, I think you go back then to sort of your early days where primarily you're dealing with all the different people. So you've got all different people, all in their own areas and trying to find the win-wins, I guess. It's people have sort of certain things at certain times that are their priorities and different timescales, and that's a big department to then bring everything together. So I think the biggest thing is just constantly you work with people to try and align those things, collaborate, bring people together to discuss and like I say, find a way forward, to create something really exciting. And I think we've always approached it in that way. So as much as challenges of trying to do that, I think more here it's a case of we're constantly looking to evolve and develop and grow. So you're trying to sort of bring all those things together, then get everyone around the table and go, right, how can we move it forward? How can we attack that problem? Or how can we create something new? So in more ways for me, I think it was more of an exciting development journey than dealing with challenges and problems.
I've seen quite new experiences then, considering, I assume you didn't spend as much time on the grass then with the players.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of time with the staff here, not so much time on the grass. I've been fortunate that I've still been able to coach across my time here, so certainly that keeps me active and I still enjoy that. But it would have been more with the programme and with the staff. And again, going back to that last point, I think that's a reflection of the staff here, because it's very hard to have that approach and look to keep moving forward if you haven't got staff that are prepared to do it. A big part of my journey, as I said, was ECAS and me developing that kind of growth mindset around myself, my own self-awareness of my blind spots and areas I needed to improve. So to bring a department together and to focus everyone in and us all try and move forward as we do here, I think is testament to the staff that we have. And we have some really, really good people, from a variety of backgrounds who can all bring different things. And again, I think we just try and find the best way to do that.
Interesting. So then, to tell us about then your transition to head of coaching, then this is your last step on this journey of yours.
Yeah, the current role is interesting for me. Again, we sort of we had a summer before last, a period where we could kind of sit and reflect a little, I guess, and literally, started not from scratch, but to build upon all the good work that had gone before. We sort of just looked at what we do and went through all those different areas, how we create the environment, how we deliver to the teams. As I said, we looked at the type of language we use, how we play through the thirds. Okay, what does that really look like? Rather than just words on the table, what does that look like visually? Or do we all agree on that? Is that right for our players? How does that link into our individual development plans? And we really sort of had a good look at ourselves. On top of that, then we looked at how we code games and analyse games and how we reflect on ourselves and our work and try and get a bit more objective data back to support that, to support the subjective view. And that's been our journey, really. So the staff have all been involved in that. And as I say, brilliant ideas from a number of good people. So it's really been a sort of whole department approach, really, to do that. And for me, it's then similar, I guess, in ways the assistant academy manager role, where you're then sort of spending time with people and making sure those things are happening and working and what support they need to make that possible. And we continue to just sort of grow and grow now. So there's sort of new ideas coming in all the time on how we can progress and develop. And I think part of it is again, that club sort of vision, which holds us all in line, from the owner all the way through the football club. There's a strand of what we're here to do, and again with those values. So, it's easy to keep everyone on track and not deviate from that because it runs so strongly through the football club.
The head of coaching role is quite interesting, actually, isn't it? Because obviously now, it's built into the EPPP. But what I notice and what a lot of people say as well, it differs quite, can differ quite a lot from club to club. So tell us a bit about what's your main roles and responsibilities as the head of coaching, and give an example. What's a typical week look like for you at the club? I think firstly I'd agree entirely. I think when we all get together on EHOG, we all have sort of slightly different approaches to how the role is delivered. Here for me, a normal week would be sort of coming in and getting around the groups as much as I can. So I normally try and see every group if I can at some stage, with the 16s and 18s and 23s. As I said, we do a lot of individual work and a lot of small group work, so at times I'll still get out and coach with the guys, which for me I find really helpful, because then I can see firsthand how everything's working and operating, and if I'm delivering as part of it, so that gives me some good reflecting myself, but obviously that gives me the opportunity to spend a lot of time with the staff, which we were able to do with those groups. As I said, on a normal year, not currently for obvious reasons, but on a normal year we'd have the kids in on day release, so you get good opportunity to see those players.
With younger groups currently, it's a little more of a change because of the restrictions due to COVID. But again, I would then sort of have an evening where I'd spend with the foundation phase, try and get around the youth development phase teams, try and catch up with all the staff. And that would be sort of how the week pans out, really, sort of a couple of days with the PDP and then different evenings and times with the other groups. Aside from that, then it's different meetings. We would normally have a meeting with our recruitment team on a Monday. We have a meeting with our psychology team with all our coaches around our development as a department. So we try and sort of make sure there's development and learning for us all within that week. And then obviously you have the normal sort of logistical elements in terms of us operating as a department. Aside from that, I just try and get involved in lots of good projects and we try and sort of run some exciting stuff. So linking in with the analysis team, with our strength and conditioning team, the psychology team here now, as I say, we meet every week around different sort of areas of development, whether that be ourselves or with the players or different aspects of our work. So I get involved in lots of really good stuff, and it's a role I enjoy. It's a role I find exciting. As I said, the only problem really is you find more and more, and the more you listen to good people and you hear new ideas and you see more things, the more you realise there is to do. So it never really stops.
Yeah, it's definitely a busy role from what I hear, from what people tell me. So would you say, like, you're pretty much responsible for the day-to-day running of the club and make everything that's going on from some player development and coach development?
I don't really view it like that. I think I kind of view it more as just collaborating with all the staff we have. Ultimately, I guess there would be responsibilities attached to me for that, which is fine. In terms of how I go about it, as I said, probably based upon the work that's always been done with me here, you're trying to give the staff that autonomy to work and develop and grow themselves as well. So we try not to be too prescriptive. Again, sometimes we'll try and keep things aligned and we'll try and sort of make sure we stay on track and on path. But generally, that's something we've all agreed to anyway. So yeah, I guess in some ways it would be the case. I think in terms of how I try and work, it's more collaborating with the staff, and staff all the time will come to me with new ideas and different ways they've looked at the game last week, or different things we can bring to the table for a group discussion. And so yeah, again, it's really trying to harness all of that in many ways and find win-wins for us all and find exciting new projects we can take forward. So it's a little bit of both, but here with the staff, as I say, they're very forward thinking and they like to progress and they want to develop the players, and the club's very ambitious. So it seems to be a relatively easy process for us to fuel that,
So, and tell us about how you develop coaches. I mean, that's part of your responsibility as well as the coach development. Mm-hmm. I assume that's part. So tell us about how that works, and what are the challenges? What do you do at Brighton to support your coaches? Is restricting themselves as much as possible? Yeah.
I'm learning all the time myself, and I'd be the first to say that. What we've tried to do is we have the coach competency framework in place for everybody, so everyone has their own development plan based around that. We have a full sort of PDR process here as well, so that's all aligned. So the staff have sort of targets for the year that they want to work on. With their CCF, it's more about them on a personal level in terms of them having a look at themselves in different areas, personal type areas around their work-life balance and their own sort of self-care, their professional skills, their coaching delivery. Then we try and support them the best we can. Again, I can't support everyone with that. I wouldn't be the best person to. We have some wonderful people in the building that people can go to for advice and help. Whether that's Dan or John, Vic Bragg, and some of the other senior staff that have been around the football club for a long period. We have that support from our psychology team. As I said, sort of some of my mentors and ECAS are outside of the programme and from different areas. So I try and encourage the staff to get involved in different projects and speak to different people. So we try and do that. We try and provide a CPD programme that reflects that, different sports, different study visits. We're very well supported by the Premier League and the FA in terms of staff coming in as all the clubs would be. So yeah, we try and package up, again, similar to the players, I guess, where we're talking about a range of experiences. I guess that's what we're trying to create for the staff.
And so how often do you meet each coach, for example, to go over their the plans?
We would meet with the staff, I guess informally, as I say, you try and catch up with most coaches week to week. So it's an ongoing process. In terms of the more formal aspects, we would meet sort of 2 or 3 times a year, more formally around their professional development, around their coach competency framework. But yeah, again, it doesn't really stop. I think, again, it's bringing those things to life. So it's not just having, scores on paper or having that framework in place. It's being with them. It's experiencing, time with them on the grass and having discussions with them. And I think that's really where everything's done. But again, I'm learning, similar to my coaching journey, trying to improve on that in terms of my communication and providing feedback and how I can challenge and support staff appropriately. So again, it's something, you continue to try and improve and develop. We have great staff here that help me with that and help the staff with that. And again, very fortunate to be part of the EHOC journey where, we have great mentors that I work with and different people I can talk with around different ways to move forward. So, we try and provide growth for the staff, but also it's, again, another huge part of my own personal development.
And to talk about a little bit, just briefly about the foundation phase, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. Tell us a little bit about your approach at the foundation phase. Tell us about that, and what's the philosophy at that age group?
Again, similar as I mentioned earlier, big emphasis on the brilliant basics. We have some great staff down there, really passionate about what they do. Obviously, the challenges with the amount of work involved now is difficult with part-time staff. Having been one of the part-time staff myself, back in the day, you appreciate the time constraints on some of those staff. But they do a great job for us. The department continues to grow all the time. Big focus on the brilliant basics. Again, big focus on attacking 1v1s and defending 1v1. And as I described earlier, there would be different aspects of the week, where we'll really break it down and have small groups with the players so the staff can really focus on some depth and detail. And then as they progress through the phase, we try and ensure that transition to 11v11 is smooth and kind of start to introduce principles that will stand them in good stead for the 11v11 game. But again, that needs to be very progressive and something we're very conscious of. At the same time, around all of those areas, it's then linking with recruitment and our recruitment staff. We've done a wonderful job for us recently, in terms of developing that aspect. And as I said, that's something we've been fortunate throughout the years here. And then aligning with that multidisciplinary team around a 2-week rolling programme, just to try and get all of our work in. But generally there would be arrival activities, ball manipulation work around their individual development plans. There would always be an aspect of brilliant basics type work throughout the week, which maybe some element of passing or ball manipulation or technical work. We would always have attacking and defending 1v1s, and then we would have different themes that we would work to, again, at how we play through different aspects of the game. Throughout the week, then we'd always look at other aspects of their individual development plans, whether that's defensive aspects or finishing techniques or different things. So our weeks here are hard to describe purely because we try and get so much into them. So there'll be different aspects of different sessions. Certain groups will arrive, but it won't be the same arrival activity. There'll be 2 or 3 different things going on for different types of players. And similar through the sessions, we try and cater, as I said, for everyone individually. And then bring that together as that progresses and develops through the programme. So there's always lots going on. We always want the staff to be really, really active. We always want lots of activity in terms of high reps. We've had some brilliant discussions around repetition versus skill acquisition, in terms of how we can develop that. So that's a real priority for us at the moment, to try and really get technical excellence, but ensure that's with decision making and experiences within the game. So that's a big project that we have on the go, that the staff are looking at, but they're doing a great job in terms of bringing all those things together. And as I said, you appreciate that's a big challenge with a number of players at Foundation and part-time staff who have other things going on in their lives, but they're working very, very hard, and we really appreciate that.
Do they normally work through like a tactical cycle, for example? Is there themed weeks on that can be for the foundation phase and the YDP? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, we kind of have things, as I say, we work through the thirds, and then we basically would have sort of an aspect of that we would focus on week to week, and then we'd have another area that maybe would oppose that and then work on that the next week. So it allows us to kind of then follow up. So We might have playing out one week and then we might have some aspects of pressing and bring the two together, and things like that as an example. So we would look at how we play through the thirds and we would develop that in. But at those stages, as I say, it's more around the individuals understanding, the individual sort of tactics within that. And as they move closer to the youth development phase, then it'd be more in the team construct in terms of units and then developing from there. So it's very much a case of, positional sort of understanding and individual tactics developing into the team. But as the players at those ages, you try not to pinpoint into a certain area anyway, and there's certain players that can play different positions. So again, I think variety is key. So we try and provide that sort of wealth of experiences for them.
And what about European football competitions that, for youngest age groups, 9s, 10s, 16s, tournaments? Do you take part in them? Do you see importance of those sorts of things?
Yeah, we do. It's been something that's grown and developed here. So most teams be fortunate to have 2 or 3 probably a year. Some clubs would do more. I think we feel very fortunate that we're able to do what we can. It's a big part of our programme. We're very well supported by the club to be able to do that. And certainly our sort of status as coming into the Premier League has sort of helped our reputation with that. And the more tournaments you go to, that continues to grow. It's a big part of our work with the players, and you learn so much at those events. That again, the players away from home, how they eat, sleep. The ones that rest, the ones that are recovering, ready for the next day. If you've got 2 or 3 games in a day, how they cope with the different opposition. A whole sort of host of experiences. Again, as people and as players, and it's invaluable, and we learn so much from them. So we try and make sure they're in place. We try and have a bit of variety, so that the younger teams would go to maybe some of the indoor events, at different times of the year and different types of events. And then as we progress through, again, sort of more competition and events that we can go to and try and enhance and develop that winning mentality. So again, a balance of making sure people all get that experience and making sure we develop that as we go. So. Great, and again, fortunate that we're involved with great clubs and great teams, and we have a good network of people that provide some wonderful opportunities for us. So, again, looking back over my career, you really appreciate the things that we have now when you're talking about international tournaments and the training ground that I'm sat in today, and all the support we're given. It's incredible.
And tell us about yourself then. What's your own aspirations for the future?
It's a good question, mate. I'm not entirely sure. So I've never really had much of a plan. All the time through ECAS and EHOC, we have our development action plans, and I've always struggled to have a final destination on it, if you like, of what I want to be. I'm not sure I really know. I'm not sure I really have designs on anything in particular. I enjoy my roles, and I really focus a little more on the here and now, just trying to be the best I can be at the moment, which maybe sounds a bit cliche, but that's always how I've gone about it. Just try and get on with my job and try and be the best I can. As I said, I'm surrounded by so many good people and fortunate to be at events with so many good people. You sort of realise how much more you can do, and I tend to focus more on the now, trying to develop and try and find more ways to develop and grow, and then see where it takes me. What would I base it on? My family, for sure. It needs to be right for the family, and it needs to be a project that excites me and you want to be part of. But I have that right here. As I said, that's why I came here in the first place. That still continues to be the case. I really enjoy what I do. There's so much I think we can still do. I know there's masses I can do to be better. So at the moment, that's my priority. I'm not sure what the future holds, but we'll see.
And what would your advice be to a young aspiring coach who wants to have a career in the game like yourself?
For me, I think the biggest thing is patience. A lot of people sort of get in touch about how they can get involved, and it's difficult. It's difficult to get started in many ways. There's so many good people around the game now, so many good coaches. The staff we have here, you have ex-professionals, you have people from different backgrounds, whether that's other sports, whether that's educational backgrounds, whether that's coach developers. So there's so many good people. So I think you just have to keep working hard, just learn and experience as much as possible. You know, I didn't work in an academy environment till, as I said earlier, I was in sort of my late 20s, you know, and so it certainly wasn't a quick journey for me. I had 10, 12 years of working in community programs and development programs, and still going and working with my dad in his business and helping out, you know, all through that period while I played non-league. And so I think at times you just have to stay in as long as possible, and sometimes have to wait for your opportunity. And as I said, I think if you then just focus on being the very, very best you can be in those moments, you know, hopefully if you do well and you're good at what you do, you'll get what you deserve. And I genuinely think that's the case, and how I've always tried to go about it.
Ian, thank you very much, mate. It's been class. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. No, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the MyPersonalFootballCoach.com Soccer Player Development Podcast. MyPersonalFootballCoach.com's Dynamic Ball Mastery Program is the world's leading online individual technical training program, proven and developed at the highest level in the English Premier League. Sign up now to train like the pros and take your game to the next level. Master the ball, master the game.